That night, I thought we were just having another silly sleepover like we always did. I never imagined it would turn into the most confusing, thrilling, and unforgettable night of my life. Because when Lily said that and then did what she did, I was stunned, but the truth, I didn't want her to stop. I've known Lily for as long as I can remember. We met when we were 5 in the kind of innocent way that only children can meet, by bumping into each other in the playground and immediately becoming best friends as though it was always meant to be. We were inseparable from that moment on. Where one of us went, the other followed. We built forts in our backyards, shared secrets about everything and nothing, and spent countless afternoons riding bikes down quiet streets, our laughter ringing in the air. Sleepovers became our ritual. We'd spend hours giggling into the night, talking about our dreams, fears, and every boy in school. We thought was cute, though none of them ever came close to comparing to the girl sitting next to me. She was always the one who knew how to make me laugh, the one who knew exactly what to say when things felt tough. I could always count on Lily through all the changes that. As the years unfolded, Lily emerged as our friendship was a steady presence in my life. Unwavering, we held nothing back. There were no battles to recount, none to share could be mended with just a heartfelt apology and a warm embrace. The certainty lingered within me, unwavering and clear, that Lily was the one. I would forever trust in unwavering support, regardless of the circumstances that unfold. In a hidden corner of it all, in the dim light of the room, laughter echoed softly as friends gathered sharing stories and dreams. The night was filled with hushed tones and playful giggles, each secret woven into the fabric of their bond, creating memories that would last a lifetime. A gentle change began to unfold almost imperceptibly. Initially, there were little details that I overlooked. I'm not entirely sure how to understand a touch that stayed just a moment more, as she offered me a treasure, just like the warmth of her smile, felt as though it was burrowing into my very core. As her gaze met mine, I found myself wrapped in a web of belief. It was merely the intimacy that arrived with a wealth of shared memories. Yet as I began to pay attention to these details, as I continued, a palpable tension began to envelop the atmosphere. The atmosphere around her shifted, a unique essence filling the space. Whenever she approached it, the anticipation that grips you just before debate. Yet it's the sort that resonates deep within, when an unvoiced tension is simmering just underneath it all. Time moved at a leisurely pace. A moment of clarity that I found difficult to grasp. Though it may have gone unnoticed, I truly gave it my all to make it happen. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Lily, who was my dearest companion. She was like family to me. I couldn't imagine life without her. In any other light, I wouldn't speak of her, allow myself to see. Yet the reality was that circumstances were transforming, and I found myself uncertain about the way forward. It was during that initial moment when it caught my attention. Without a doubt, it was during that moment when we found ourselves seated on a warm afternoon, sitting in the park, savoring the sweet delight of ice cream, and whispering tales of the ordinary Lily. She was chuckling at something I had shared with her. Her head tilted back, radiating a sense of freedom and joy. She had a way about her that captivated me, and I found myself unable to resist. Gaze at her for a heartbeat longer than typically the glow from the descending sun. She caught her hair, and for the first time in that moment, her beauty struck me like a bolt of lightning, leaving me breathless and trembling. The idea drifted away as I chuckled at my own silliness. Yet as she spun around, our eyes met in a fleeting moment. There was a gentle warmth in her gaze that caused my heart to race just a bit more. It appeared as though they were oblivious, yet I was acutely aware. Turn her gaze, not even as she started to Once more the conversation unfolded, marking the moment of transformation. Began to take on a tangible form. It was more than just the way her gaze sparkled and her smile lit up. The room had faded. The emotions that surged within me when she was near, the aura around them, felt larger than life. My thoughts expanded beyond what they were previously, and I discovered I find myself revisiting the cherished moments we experienced together. Examining each caress, each fleeting look, I discovered a yearning within me, a quest for purpose and meaning, close to her, to keep her close to me always. In a fleeting instant, whether it was perched upon a cozy chair, beside her on the couch, a journey unfolded as they walked down the path of shared moments, strolling down the street side by side, or simply exchanging the stillness enveloped us heavy, with unspoken words, something greater than it once was. In the depths of my mind, I fought against the truth, desperately trying to turn away from it, to persuade myself that perhaps it was as if we had woven a tapestry of memories together. Through the passage of time, our bond has remained steadfast. It was intense, yet now it carried a different essence. The warmth of her smile lingered, wrapping around me like a gentle embrace, couldn't grasp the manner in which she would. As we crossed paths, her fingers grazed my hand, a fleeting touch that sent a spark through the air. There was an energy in the air, a palpable sensation that stirred something deep within. It felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, yet I convinced myself it all fit together somehow. Perhaps I was simply lost in thought, or perhaps this was merely an ordinary chapter in our bond, a seamless flow advancement, yet each time I was discovered, I found myself gazing at her, lost in the moment, perhaps a bit longer than intended, or sensing that flutter in my chest when she spoke. Once upon a time, there was a little voice that whispered secrets in my mind, guiding me through the twists and turns of life. It echoed, revealing the truth I had buried deep within. As the days went by, a new sensation began to blossom within me, an unknown path that I had yet to explore. It was one evening following It was a long day filled with laughter and good company as we found ourselves sitting together, sharing stories and enjoying each other's presence. As we sat side by side on my porch, the sun dipped below the horizon, the gentle illumination of the street lamp casting its light, the path glowed softly, embracing the stillness of the under the stars. We shared our thoughts and dreams, weaving a tapestry of conversation that felt endless. Nothing like our usual routine yet. This time feels different. The conversation carried a heaviness, an unspoken tension that lingered between us. Lily's gaze was fixed upon me, her eyes filled with unspoken thoughts. Her gaze was gentle and contemplative, a constant presence that lingered in the air. That manner of making me feel like the very best and influential figure in the global landscape and within. In that instant, a revelation washed over me. My heart felt a sudden constriction as I came to understand that, filled with fear, I longed for something more. She had always been her closest companion, but deep down she yearned for something beyond friendship. An experience that caught me off guard, confessing even to my own heart, the words lingered in the air, there hanging in the space that separates us. Silence lingered in the air, thick with unexpressed fears. I found myself trembling at the thought that if I spoke the words aloud, and it felt like everything would come crashing down. All that we shared, our bond, was truly unique. There was a constant presence in my life, something I could always depend on, and I couldn't bear the thought of letting it slip away. So I chose to remain. Quietly yet within me, I understood this wasn't right. This was more than just a fleeting moment, an unexpected challenge that left me uncertain. As the night deepened, I found myself sitting there, acting as if nothing had changed, had always existed within the depths of everything. As the years passed, everything began to change. They didn't become any easier. If anything, they became more complex. The chaotic days of high school arrived, and in an instant, the world anticipated our concern. For preparing for college can feel like navigating a maze, especially when it comes to makeup. The choices can be overwhelming, leaving you wondering where to start and how to find your unique style amidst the chaos. Among all the boys, Lily found herself drawn in, captivated by the moment. With an ease that captivated all, she possessed a charm that drew everyone in, of presence that captivated those around, draw closer to her effortlessly. I made an effort to seem just like everyone else, no matter what. What I thought was ordinary turned out to be my choice to allow her. Take me to gatherings with other girls. She guided her in selecting the perfect ensembles for the upcoming celebrations, and listened patiently as she poured out her heart about her infatuation. In the beginning, it was simple to agree with a knowing nod. As we journey together, sharing laughter and pretending that everything is just fine, she found herself wondering about the latest boy who had taken an interest in her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the world, a moment unfolded. It started with a simple click, capturing the essence of life in a frame. But as time passed, the story began to weave itself into something deeper, something that resonated with the heart. Each detail, each shadow whispered secrets of the day, inviting all to pause and reflect on the beauty that surrounds us. Slowly within me began to spiral, whenever she shared thoughts about another, and I sensed it deeply. A heavy sensation lingers in my chest, a quiet turmoil of envy that refuses to fade. Trivial yet profound, as if I were the heart-wrenching moment of letting go of something dear, yet not fully realizing its absence. I began to realize how to put an end to it. Everything changed the moment her eyes sparkled with excitement when she had a special way of giggling whenever he was around, a sound that danced in the air like a secret melody only they could hear. As I exchanged messages while seated opposite, she feigned indifference just like her. Our hands would gently graze against each other as we strolled together. Intimate, and how that simple brush of skin ignited a sensation that filled me with dread. This was far from friendship. It certainly wasn't what I had imagined, but it remained unspoken, a truth I couldn't even admit to my own heart. I concealed it deep within, convincing myself it was merely in a moment of uncertainty, a fleeting disturbance arose tangled in the web of emotions and shifting energies. Any reason I could think of to find a sense of normalcy we had always been. It felt like the distance had vanished. Perhaps it was too intimate, and that had to be the reason. Perhaps we simply softened the boundaries a bit. Perhaps I was simply interpreting things a bit too deeply. Yet even that reasoning began to falter. It wore thin, caught in the way I lingered. In that moment, as our arms wrapped around each other, time seemed to stretch infinitely, and my heart swelled with emotions, quickened as she rested her head upon my lean on your shoulder during our movie nights. How I'd capture the essence of her shampoo's fragrance lingering in the air. Each embrace wrapped around me, leaving my heart feeling constricted, when she would chuckle and gently take hold of my arm, as if it were the most instinctive occurrence in a realm where every detail of Lily's existence unfolded. The world transformed around her. Her presence filled the room, a symphony of sound and fragrance that enveloped everyone around her. She lingered in every corner of my mind. In the hush of solitude, I found my voice and whispered. It was a quiet evening, just like any other, until that fateful night when we found ourselves at her place. She lay sprawled across her bed, after immersed in a whirlwind of cringeworthy romance. On screen, the hour had grown late, far too late, yet neither of us. As she shifted, the soul illumination danced from her salt, casting a soft glow around her. A gentle glow enveloped the room, casting a warm orange hue that wrapped around everything like a comforting embrace. Radiance, my eyes were drawn to it, unable to look away from the enchanting sight before me. The gentle arc of her jaw, the soft parting of her lips gently as she moved her finger across her. As I held the phone, a tight knot of nerves twisted in my stomach. "You've been acting a bit strange lately," she remarked. In an unexpected moment, their gaze met mine, and I felt my breath catch. She shrugged, a look of confusion crossing her face. "Caught? What do you mean?" Placing her phone aside and pivoting. In the stillness, a figure approached, yet the distance felt vast and the silence profound, leaving me in a state of uncertainty. It feels off, like a shadow lurking in the silence, not quite resonating with who you are. Chuckled nervously, searching for It seems I've been feeling weary, longing for a way out. In the bustling halls of the school, she wandered, her mind racing with thoughts. Yet despite the vibrant atmosphere, she chose not to indulge in the latest trends that surrounded her. Eyes narrowed, not with malice, just, "Are you upset with me, or is something else going on?" "No." I spoke too hastily. "So what is it that I—" Gazed deeply into her eyes, truly seeing her, and all the emotions I had buried deep within began to surface. As a sensation rose within me, my lips parted in anticipation. Before I could intervene, I found myself lost in uncertainty. In hushed tones, there are moments when it seems as though there's a shift in the air, a subtle transformation in the bond we share. She feels it too. In a moment of surprise, I found myself taken aback, transforming the way I perceived everything around me. I shook my head, feeling the urge to pull back immediately. Never mind, I might just be overthinking. With a heavy heart and weary eyes, I compelled myself to the sound of my laughter, echoed emptily reverberating in my own ears. Lily smiled, a glimmer of mischief dancing in her eyes, as if she were weaving a tale of her own. In a moment, thick with unspoken words, Jenna stepped forward, her presence a gentle balm, seeking to ease the weight of the air around them. They are filled with intensity, which is no surprise. I couldn't help but smile as well, yet it never found its way to my gaze as she turned away. She lay back, her arm reaching out gently, brushing against the surface. She moved gracefully, a smile on her lips. "We're good, though." "Isn't that so?" "Absolutely," I replied, not telling the truth. "We are—" It was fine, yet an unsettling sensation lingered in the air. The absence of our presence held a certain significance. In that fleeting instant, her eyes sparkled with a brief glimmer. She struggled to find the right words, as if she understood my thoughts but couldn't articulate them. It was as if they both sensed it, yet neither dared to acknowledge it. We spoke it into the night, our voices mingling with the stars. Concluded just like all the rest, with us nestled together, wrapped in the warmth of a shared cover, lost in a world of make-believe. Everything felt effortless as we played our roles. They were both dancing around an unspoken truth. Neither of us was willing to confess the truth I had concealed, stirring in the quiet hours long after she had drifted into slumber beside. Her breath was slow and steady, and all I could do was watch. All I could ponder was, why does this feel like the dawn of an adventure I'm not prepared for? At the conclusion of a journey, there lies a weight I cannot release. Go. I didn't possess the answer yet. I found myself beginning to understand that I couldn't hold on, no longer fleeing from the inquiry, and a great deal awaited in the unfolding tale. A fresh stillness blossoming in the space between Lily and I shared a bond that blossomed from unexpected beginnings. The heaviness that lingers, a mix of unease and frustration of secrets, lingering in the air, and it only grew as the years passed. The weight of it all grew more profound. By the time we reached 17, the distance that lay between us began to take on a weight of its own, charged with energy. Not merely in a figurative sense, it was as if a vibrant energy was pulsing through the air, a sensation that tingled and danced all around me. The gentle breeze that enveloped me whenever she glided by or took a seat. It felt as if our bodies were in tune, sensing each other in a way that was almost instinctual, something that our minds turned away from. We had always shared a bond that brought us together in ways that felt undeniable. It was just another moment, fingers intertwined in a familiar embrace. They found themselves drifting off in each other's presence. In the dim light of the theater, the warmth of a gentle embrace envelops you as the story unfolds on the screen. The comforting presence beside you makes every twist and turn of the plot feel even more thrilling, while the soft touch of a hug brings a sense of safety and connection amidst the cinematic adventure. In the corridor, during a challenging moment that had always been the way things were, but now those familiar gestures sent a chill down my spine. As a tingling sensation began to creep up my spine, I found myself becoming increasingly aware. It all began with the story of Lily's shirts, embracing her silhouette tighter than ever. Her hair cascaded gracefully, flowing over her. After her shower, she felt the water gliding down her shoulders, a refreshing sensation that lingered in the air. Her lips formed a gentle curve whenever amusement danced in her eyes, or how she would gently bite the soft flesh within her. Her cheek rested gently in her hand as she wandered through the labyrinth of her thoughts. The most frustrating part was that she didn't even need to put in any effort. Her mere presence in the room held a magic that was enough to. As she leaned over, my thoughts began to swirl and tangle, a chaotic dance of emotions and ideas. She wanted to share a glimpse from her phone, and in moments of stillness, I would lose the very essence of breath while she would find her peace and quietude. With your chin resting gently on my shoulder, we stirred the pot together. As we came together, an undeniable warmth enveloped us, drawing me in closer, locations I preferred to overlook. I despised the way my body responded before my mind raced ahead, but my body just wouldn't relent. And I found myself unable to break free one night as we attended an intimate gathering with a shared friend. At my friend's place, it was nothing too crazy, just a blend of good vibes and familiar faces. In a world where gentle melodies floated through the air, shadows danced playfully under the warm glow of muted lights, creating an atmosphere filled with an abundance of moments waiting to be cherished. Lily glanced around, her red solo cup in hand, exuding an effortless charm that captivated everyone nearby. Radiant in a flowing black tank top and the high-waisted jeans felt like a constant reminder of my insecurities. It struck me how much I despised the way I kept gazing at her. Gently pushed me as we reached our destination, offering me that. The playful smile that danced on her lips whenever she was in a playful mood, and we needed to embrace it. Let's unwind together this evening, perhaps with a drink or two. With a dramatic roll of my eyes, I decided to follow her anyway. Before we knew it, the moments began to unfold. Discovered a quiet nook in the room and settled into. On the well-loved couch, with drinks in hand, laughter filled the air. In the dim light, laughter erupted, echoing through the room as whispers of silly jokes danced in the air. Whispers we would keep close and embraced. We found ourselves intertwined in ways we never anticipated. As our thighs met and our arms gently brushed against each other, a spark ignited in the air between us. As the evening unfolded, we found ourselves drifting further apart with each sip of our second drink. My cheeks glowed with warmth, and an electric energy buzzed within me, mindful of her every motion she had carefully tucked. She tucked her legs beneath her, resting her shoulder gently. Her voice gently pressed into mine, soft as she leaned in. Their breath warm against my skin as they whispered softly into my ear. Each time she did, I could feel her breath on my neck, a source of both torment and allure, drew me in with its irresistible grip. As the night wore on, the energy of the gathering began to dwindle, and one by one the guests slipped away into the shadows, faded softly into the melody, echoed softly from a distant chamber, yet it was a whisper almost lost in the air, just the two of us in that moment. The couch remained as it always had, yet in that moment her gaze met mine, and everything felt transformed. Then she truly gazed, her eyes unwavering. Departed as they often did when we gazed for what felt like an eternity. Their presence lingered in the shadows and incomprehensible. "May I share something with you?" "Something?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Whispered, my heart leaped. "Of course," she said. She hummed, her fingers tracing the edge of her. "Have you ever felt like what lay between us was deeper than it ever ought to be?" As I stood there, time seemed to halt, and my breath became a whisper, lost in the air. My throat felt tight, and words escaped me like whispers in the wind. I was lost in the moment, unsure of how to express the turmoil within. I found myself caught in a web of truth, yet the courage to speak it eluded me. In all honesty, it was as if she had offered with a nervous chuckle. I averted my gaze, feeling a rush of embarrassment. My apologies slipped out almost instinctively. "That was foolish. I'm just feeling a bit lightheaded," and in a moment filled with raw emotion, I felt the weight of being overlooked. "No," I insisted. "I need you to hear my voice. Overly intense, overly eager, it's not foolish." Her gaze darted back, and I sensed it as well. There it was, a moment of relief washed over me as I laid eyes on it. In a world where shadows often loom, there lies a flicker of light that beckons us to embrace our true selves. It whispers of strength found in openness, a gentle reminder that even in our most fragile moments, there is a promise of brighter days ahead. With each step into the unknown, we discover the beauty of connection and the power of resilience, weaving a tapestry of courage and dreams that guide us forward. What was it that sent shivers down my spine? She shrugged, pondering the possibility of being mistaken. "When your heart doesn't echo mine, it feels like I've lost everything. She is the one who holds the most significance in my life," whispered in such a soft manner that it seemed as if it could. As I extended my hand towards hers, a moment of connection sparked between us. Without thinking, hands weaving through, they embraced her perfectly, the warmth of her skin radiating through. With a slight tremor, I replied, "You're not wrong," softly spoke. "I've been feeling the same moments." She gazed at me then, and for a next, we simply gazed at everything that unfolded before us, lingered in the air, unacknowledged as we found ourselves in that. Our eyes met, burdened yet delicate, and though the moment lingered, our lips remained apart. didn't draw closer or disrupt the magic of the moment with it, was a moment that resonated deeply, stirring feelings within like never before, the most personal moment we had ever experienced. It's hard to say how long we lingered in that moment, perhaps, it could have been just a minute, or perhaps it stretched into hours, yet in that time I sensed something profound. The change that has taken place between us is delicate yet permanent. Lily furrowed her brow, uncertainty clouding her expression as she spoke. I don't know what this means. With a tremor in my voice, I find myself at a loss for words. I wish for it to convey what I feel, yet I needed you to understand. I found myself unable to maintain the facade just as they did. Fear grips me as I confess, yet there's something more within me. There was a sense of relief washing over me, a quiet comfort in her question. Nodded in agreement, affirming that I'm not losing my mind over this. The connection we share is genuine. It's more than mere words. In her mind, a gentle smile spread across her face, followed by a serene silence. A smile lingered, uncertain, yet genuine, as silence enveloped us. We lingered in the moments of that night, lost in thoughts and whispers, curled on the couch side by side, our fingers gently woven together beneath. Wrapped in a cozy embrace, we listened to the gentle hum of individuals in our midst. And for the very first time, in the span of weeks, perhaps even months, I sensed that I could finally breathe, yet underneath. That serenity flowed like a gentle river, a rhythm that echoed softly in the background. The realization that nothing would ever be the same again, we had at last given a name to the strain that has lingered in our minds for years, and though none of us could have predicted what awaited us, we were unprepared, no longer fleeing from what frightened me, yet it filled me with a sense of vitality beyond measure. It had been ages since I last experienced the vastness of the sky. The world beyond was cloaked in shades of deep gray, reminiscent of smoldering embers, calm yet dense, reminiscent of stillness. Before the thunder rolled in, the entire house was ours to explore. While Lily's parents were away, we found ourselves in quite the adventure. It was the weekend, a time that felt long overdue. As it happened, it was merely the two of us, devoid of any distractions, the excitement of the school day or the thrill of the weekend. Unexpected interruptions caught us off guard, leaving no room for preparation. An intimate gathering for the girls, filled with laughter and cozy moments. Similar to countless tales that have come before in the realm of cinema, cozy evenings filled with treats, comfy loungewear, and a delightful assortment of unexpected surprises. Words of whimsy spilled from our lips long ago. It was midnight yet. Something lingered in the air. There was something unique in the atmosphere that evening. Lily gazed at me with a look that spoke volumes, her eyes reflecting a world of unspoken thoughts and emotions. The sound of laughter hung in the air, stretching out like a warm embrace, as if time itself paused to savor the joy of the moment. Gentler than ever, the way her knee gently caressed mine, and held on tight, we uncorked a bottle of wine that we might have. They weren't meant to indulge in a single glass. The laughter we once shared had transformed. In a world where creativity meets ambition, the journey unfolds with vibrant clips and the pursuit of dreams. Each moment captured dances between the excitement of trends and the weight of future aspirations. In the quiet corners of our hearts, we often find ourselves reflecting on the moments that shaped us. The whispers of unspoken words linger, and the shadows of past crushes dance in our memories. Regrets weave through our thoughts, reminding us of paths not taken and feelings left unexpressed. Each story, a thread in the tapestry of who we are, tells of love longing and the bittersweet nature of our journeys. We had shared kisses with those we desired, conversations that filled the atmosphere with a vibrant energy. In a world of endless possibilities, Lily found herself lying on her side, lost in thought, resting on one elbow. Her hair cascaded down, gentle waves cascaded over her shoulder. My cheeks warmed slightly from the wine. Lay beside her fingers, gliding gently, tracing the designs on the blanket, with my fingers struggling to navigate the depths of her proximity experienced, or how her voice resonated softly and personally, enveloped in a whisper. And then suddenly she broke the silence with a thought. What if we did you venture into something new this evening? She smiled playfully, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she blinked. Playful, yet mysterious. A spark flickered in her gaze. The burden of the inquiry I faced, unsure about an experience we've yet to embark on, before I let out a brief, anxious chuckle. Imagine a fresh adventure where a mysterious mask transforms the experience into something extraordinary. At the stroke of midnight during the séance, her gaze remained unwavering. It was in that moment that the realization struck me. It wasn't just a jest, or if it was, it held a deeper meaning. A sort of jest that carried a reality unnoticed by all. I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. Lily, I began, but I was completely lost on how to bring it to a close. As I stood there, a gentle flutter danced in my chest, a whisper of something stirring within me, half fear, half an indescribable sensation in a way that sent shivers down her spine. She felt a sense of expectation moved in a bit, her voice dropping to a whisper. Now it's been a journey of togetherness, and at times I find myself pondering whether we might already be there. I sat up, feeling the weight of the journey behind me, knowing I was halfway there. The room was slightly askew. Caught in a moment of balance, Lily leaned in, her voice, a gentle whisper yet filled with unwavering confidence. To something beyond, I was left in awe, my mind racing, frantically searched for the perfect words to make a graceful exit. With a brief chuckle that echoed a bit too much, I found myself caught in the moment. "You're too forced," she said, barely even drunk, observing me intently while you remain unaware, responding. I found myself unable to, for the truth held me back. I was unsure about what to do with my throat, my hands clenched, slick with sweat, as I struggled to hold on to what little I could. She could sense the warmth radiating from her companion, a comforting presence beside her, the sensation of my own skin. In an instant, every nerve felt alive, tingling with an intensity that was almost overwhelming. Jenna had jolted awake, her voice barely a whisper. "Have you truly never pondered it?" That was the thought I had. I found myself reflecting on it far more often than I had anticipated. Confess in fleeting moments with sideways looks. Whispers of forgotten dreams lingered in the shadows, moments that remained etched in my mind, extended beyond what was expected. And now those flashes were evolving into something greater, genuine, vibrant, full of life. In the quiet space that lingered between us, I leaned in and whispered, "I don't know." Lily extended her hand gently, letting it glide through the air. A delicate strand of hair brushed against my cheek, a gentle reminder of her presence. Fingers danced softly, lingering for a moment like a delicate feather. With a gentle smile, he leaned closer and asked, "May I kiss you?" The air was filled with anticipation, the moment hanging delicately between them. Knocked the breath from my chest. I ought to. There was a moment when words hung in the air, a longing for a definitive answer, a simple affirmation that could cut through the uncertainty. A clear yes was all that was needed, a beacon of clarity in a sea of ambiguity. Yet all I could do was gaze at her lips slightly parted, a moment, suspended in anticipation. Then her lips brushed against mine, a moment suspended in time. Softly, it seemed to blur the lines of reality, just with a gentle touch. I felt a chill run through me, and time stood still. What I once believed I could keep hidden emerged, colliding with that instant the dread. In the depths of my soul, a yearning stirs, a fervent wish that dances just out of reach. My heart aches with a profound longing, caught in the web of what could be yet forever denied. Each beat echoes the silent plea for what remains. Elusive, a bittersweet melody of hope and despair intertwined. The sound echoed with such intensity that I was convinced she could hear it. Listen closely. I could have turned back, yet I stayed. Should have. But instead I found myself leaning in. The second kiss held a unique softness. Yet it felt distinct, fuller now, deeper. Her hand glided to the weight at the nape of my neck, grounds me while my fingers dance in the air. Discovered her waist, hesitant at first, then embracing her as if the moment had been destined. For years the room faded into nothingness, lost in the passage of time. It was merely the gentle warmth of her skin, a heat that enveloped everything around, of her breath and how it enveloped me, sending shivers through every part of my being. It felt as if the world ignited at our fingertips when, at last, we separated, and everything was the stillness that envelops. It felt as if we were perched on the brink of a great abyss, the world stretching out beneath us. There was a pause, a silence that stretched on as I found myself at a loss for words. Filled with trepidation, worried that the magic might shatter, that if I gazed into her eyes I would discover. There was a sense of regret, perhaps even a touch of pity, but when my gaze finally fell upon it, all I could see was Lily, her cheeks aglow with a rosy hue. Her eyes were wide and searching, just as filled with dread. I heard her whisper, "I'm sorry." Gently I shook my head, "Don't be." She released a breath that quivered with emotion. For quite some time, I've had a desire to embark on that journey. It had been a while, and I never imagined I would find myself in this situation. In truth, I believed you would express it aloud. They were laughing, and I insisted I wasn't part of the joke, and then we found ourselves at a crossroads, uncertain of our next steps, as if we were caught in a moment that held more questions than answers. They were once inseparable, but everything changed after that moment. An unseen change had occurred, a transformation within me that I couldn't quite grasp, prepared to choose yet, unable to overlook the moments we shared together once more, this time with an intimacy that draws them nearer. As the warmth of the blanket enveloped us, her fingers gently sought out mine, intertwining in a soft embrace, and we lingered in that stillness, wrapped in silence, cozy, ensnared in a whirlwind of emotions neither of us completely grasped. I don't want this to destroy everything," I said, softly fading into the silence. "It won't," she vowed her. Her voice quivered as she asked, "How do you know?" She paused, but I know I don't. I could no longer keep up the facade. I turned to. She gazed ahead, her eyes scanning the horizon for a sense of stability. In her gaze, a question lingered. "What are we now, Lily?" With a moment of uncertainty, a faint smile appeared tinged with sadness, as doubt lingered in the air. "I'm not sure just yet, but I'm eager to uncover the truth." Together we carry the burden of those words. It found a home in my chest. Yet it offered no remedy. It emerged unexpectedly, a twist of fate that led to something remarkable, genuine and authentic. And despite the fact that I was still filled with fear, uncertain of what lay ahead, the significance of the words spoken by others, we would transform. I was also something different, filled with optimism for. In the heart of it all, in that serene space, I had finally come to a halt. From the truth, and perhaps, just perhaps, Lily, it was a necessity. Yet what I understood was that it was merely the dawn as the first rays of sunlight began to spill across the horizon. As the soft light streamed through the delicate curtains of Lily's bedroom window, it painted the room in a warm golden hue, inviting whispers of dreams and secrets yet to be shared. Experienced a shift, an overwhelming brightness, a raw honesty that enveloped me. Woke up ensnared in her sheets, my arm gently gliding her fingers along the edge of the bed where she had. It had been hours since she had left, and now I felt the weight of her absence. Whispers of activity drifted from the kitchen, the sound of cups gently clinking together, perhaps accompanied by the soft trickle of water flowing yet. The quiet that enveloped us spoke volumes. As I gradually lifted myself, I felt every inch of my being awaken, me revisiting the events of the previous night in an endless cycle. I found myself captivated by her lips, unable to resist the pull of her hand. In mine, the way my heart had raced when the moment unfolded. Her lips met mine, and the gentle warmth enveloped me. Her tone was firm as she expressed her reluctance. No longer could we keep up the facade yet. It seemed as though we hung delicately in that fleeting instant, in the space where time lingers, caught in a delicate balance, shattered yet undeniably transformed, when I stepped into the kitchen where Lily was waiting. They were pouring coffee into 2 mismatched cups, each with its own story to tell. As she glanced up, her eyes met mine, but offered a quiet gesture, a subtle hint of acknowledgement with a courteous grin, as if we were mere acquaintances who once shared a fleeting moment of connection. Greeting the dawn with a simple morning, she whispered gently as she pushed one of the mugs forward. As the sun rose and light streamed through the window, I found myself reflecting on the moments shared across the counter that morning. With a parched throat, I reached for the cup filled with gratitude. for an object to grasp, something to gaze upon. It wasn't her face that we stood there lost in the moment. In silence for a moment that stretched on. I didn't mean to make things awkward, Lily finally admitted, whispered, barely glancing in my direction. I didn't. I said, weaving a tale of uncertainty. It's just that I'm not sure. What should we do now? I have no idea either, she replied. She glanced away, biting her lower lip. And in that moment, I understood. The way she glanced, it happened back when she was lost in thought, as words loomed ominously to pour forth, but she wasn't prepared just yet. She confessed that she hadn't slept much. At last she turned her gaze towards me, truly examined it, and I despised the way it felt, so uncomfortable. It seemed like only moments ago we had come together and experienced that resembled the moment of shattering an awakening that neither of us had anticipated for years. We had been navigating this journey, and now we found ourselves stumbling along the way. In the wake of it all, they moved about as if they were unfamiliar faces in a crowded room, who had exchanged their very essence, and unsure of how to return it, she asked, Will you regret it? I inquired, feeling a deep sense of vulnerability. Her voice echoed softly. No, she replied without hesitation. With a moment of uncertainty, I asked, Do you? But I simply shook my head in response, feeling the weight of unspoken thoughts. I'm not sure, but there's this fear creeping in. Me too. And in that moment, the truth unveiled itself, unadorned and unfiltered, resting weighty in the vast expanse that lay between us. We found our way back to her once more. In a cozy space nestled on the floor, with legs crossed, a sense of calm envelops the atmosphere, gazing into one another's eyes as we did in the past, when in our youthful days we roamed free, but now a heaviness lingered in the air. To all things, the time for pretense has come to an end. I've been feeling something for someone, but I've been trying to steer clear of it. After a moment, she spoke, her voice cautious. Yet I found myself at a loss for words, unsure of how to express it. I wondered if it was merely a figment of my imagination, or perhaps your feelings didn't align with mine, so I suppressed it, striving for a sense of normalcy, just like I always do, softly echoed with each gentle caress. Whenever your gaze lingered on me, I repeatedly reassured myself that it was merely. I found myself lost in thoughts about a bond that seemed to weigh heavily on my mind. But you weren't, she said. No, I replied, and you weren't there either, as we lingered in that stillness, grasping the lingering strain that remains, but gentler now, as if it had transformed into something a bit easier to handle for at least. In that moment, we found ourselves surrounded, yet uncertainty lingered in the air. What does this mean? I asked, curious about what we truly are. In this moment, we find ourselves pondering our next steps. In the journey ahead, there's no need to have all the answers just yet. Right away, she replied gently, but we can cease the charade. And what about the others? I inquired softly, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Above a whisper, she asked, What do we tell them? What if they find it strange? What if they simply do not? Do you grasp the concept? Lily extended her hand across the. In that cozy nook, she reached out her fingers, intertwining with mine. They were warm and steady, but then they faded away. Yet we remained. That's all that matters at this moment, her. The words were meant to bring solace, yet the truth was fear lingered within me, a shadow that wouldn't fade away. The labels trembled at the hushed murmurs lurking in the shadows. Our hearts trembled at the thought of losing her. If this ever went wrong, I would be completely at a loss. I expressed my desire to protect the bond we share. You're my best friend, she said, squeezing my hand tightly. With your hand in mine, we share a bond that feels unbreakable. To transform it could blossom into something, but together we will find a way through it all. In unison, that word resonated deep within my heart, like a vow we never fully embraced. Answers we never anticipated. This journey would take us. We took the reins, but for the first time we found ourselves stepping back. We rose quietly as if the world around us held its breath, lingering in the shadows of what we sought to escape. Intertwined fingers they settled next to each other on. In her bed, silence lingered. This time there was no kiss. An elaborate display, yet a serene foundation. The kind of closeness that envelops you. There was no need for definitions, as Zadie leaned by with her head gently resting on his shoulder. She found comfort in the moment. In a gentle dance, Lily suggested we take our time moving against the current of the world around us. There's no need to explain yourself to anyone just yet. Perhaps never, I nodded in agreement, and there it was. There remains an abundance of mysteries yet to be uncovered. We found ourselves pondering the possibilities of our future, yet there was a certainty in my heart, a deep yearning to discover. Together they ventured forth side by side, ready to face whatever the world had in store. What comes next? Where shall we start this journey? From this point, we had ventured into uncharted territory. Always remain intertwined, even as a piece of me longed to turn back the clock to revisit another chapter of the journey. The sound of pain echoed within. A part of me understood that desire would never be mine, to erase the memory of her lips against mine. It finally felt tangible, but where does that lead? Abandon us in a realm filled with affection. In a world filled with various realms of knowledge, one often finds themselves pondering the best way to convey an idea. Imagine standing at the crossroads of understanding, where each path represents a different category of thought. As you embark on this journey, you seek to unravel the mysteries of explanation, guiding others through the intricate web of concepts and insights. With each step, you weave a narrative that illuminates the essence of what you wish to share, transforming complexity into clarity that doesn't belong to any of them. How do you share with others that your closest companion transformed into something greater, and that it was unplanned, a surprise that caught you off guard? In that moment, a wave of longing washed over me, a desire to have everything perfectly mapped out. I long to share with you that this journey finds its conclusion. With precision and transparency, bravery courses through my veins. Yet the reality remains that I am still perched at the brink of an unknown adventure. In a moment filled with uncertainty, he hesitated, his heart racing as he reached for her hand, fear gripping him tightly. Imagine a moment where you find yourself at a crossroads, pondering the weight of what you hold on to. What choices would you make if you had the chance to release it all? You would turn around before Is it too late, or will you dare to take one more step forward? Step boldly into the uncharted. Share your thoughts with me. In the thoughts linger as I find myself in this moment, merely seeking to find my breath.